With their third straight series win, the Atlanta Braves finally seem to be on a roll, playing some good baseball, some heroics late by the offense, and Eli White stays incredibly red hot for the Atlanta Braves. We'll cover everything that happened over the weekend in Arizona on today's episode of Locked On Braves, so let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastroianni. You can follow me on social media at Shortstop Ball. Check out the podcast there at LockedOn_Braves on X and Locked On Braves on Instagram. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube if you're new. Hit the thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below, as it does help us out a ton whenever you do those things. And if you're listening on the audio version, you can help me out by leaving me a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. On today's podcast, we're going to recap the weekend series against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Another series win for the Atlanta Braves. Felt like maybe there could have been a little bit more on Sunday, but we'll certainly take the series win, especially how the way things went out west to begin the season, and the Diamondbacks being a good team. So a great series win there for the Braves on this West Coast trip. We'll get into everything that happened there. Eli White's continue his good play. Ozzie Albies struggles with runners in scoring position. The pitching just kind of being okay. And then we'll obviously preview the Rockies series in Denver. So a lot coming your way on today's episode of Locked On Braves. But did you know with Fire TV, it's also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with the Fire TV Stick 4K device. No console required. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller are required. Well, as I said, a series win for the Atlanta Braves in Arizona. I know the Diamondbacks were kind of struggling coming into this series, but still a very good team, a very good offense. I think we saw that, especially in the last two games of this series. And so this is going to be a tough challenge for the Atlanta Braves after how their last trip went out west when they began the season out there going 0-7, playing a really good Diamondbacks team. And I thought the Braves passed this test, certainly getting a series win, and kind of the way that they did it offensively, being able to come back in the game on Saturday and get that win, and even battling on Sunday. I know Sunday's game was a loss, but you just felt like they were never really out of it, and they kept giving themselves chances, even in that ninth inning. After the Diamondbacks extended their lead back to 3, the Braves come back in the ninth inning, bring the tying run to the plate twice, but just weren't able to come through with the big hit. But still putting that pressure on, giving themselves a chance, and the vibes just continue to feel different with this Braves team. I just never feel like they're out of a ball game. I feel like they have a chance, and I feel like they're going to get that big hit. I feel like they're going to make that big pitch, and it's just great to have that feeling about this team right now. And we'll start offensively in the second segment. We're going to break down the pitching staff, where there are some concerns, especially with Raisel Iglesias, so we'll talk about that. But offensively, it's looking more and more like a complete group. Especially you look at the first two games of this series, and even Sunday's game to a degree. But on Friday, you scored 8 runs without a home run, which is, again, love home runs. Their best, most efficient way to score. I say that all the time. But that's what I also say all the time is you have to be a more consistent, complete offense. So to be able to see them score on Friday without the home run ball, it was certainly a welcome sign for this Braves offense. And then on Saturday, it looked like it was going to be the complete opposite. Early through that game, they only were able to score with the home runs. You had the 2 solo shots. Eli White's home run in the 7th inning was huge. It got them back in that game. But still, there were the lull in the middle inning there where they weren't able to just push one run across here somehow, where, manufacture to get a little bit closer. However, in that 8th inning just continues to be a great spot for the Atlanta Braves. They were able to string those hits together, some clutch 2-out hitting. So they combined it all in that game on Saturday, which was, I think, the craziest, wildest game of the year so far for the Atlanta Braves. And offensively, maybe their most complete game, because you did have the home runs early that kind of kept them in the game. And then you had the big 8th inning where they just strung some hits together and were able to have some clutch hitting. So it was good to see them kind of put that all together in the game on Saturday. On Sunday, it was a bit of a struggle against Brandon Pfaadt, who, as I said, going into the weekend was their best pitcher. I hate how easy it was for him at times. They weren't able to battle him. You saw how weak that Arizona Diamondbacks bullpen was, and that you weren't able to really get to him early and push up his pitch count and get him out of the game. Now, they did try to stretch him for a 7th inning, and that's when the Braves got to him and knocked him out of the game. I think it was the first 3 runners in the 7th inning reached base before they finally removed him, and then you were able to get a couple of runs across on that bullpen before Shelby Miller, old friend, was able to shut things down. So they did eventually get to him, but if you could have done a little bit more work in those early innings, might have knocked him out a little bit sooner and got a better chance against that bullpen. But again, offensively, this is looking more and more like the team that we wanted to see over the last week, 2 weeks now, really since they came home, since that opening West Coast trip where they went 0-7. It's been a top 5, top 6 offense in all of baseball. So it's just good to see them being able to be a more complete team offensively. We know how much power they have, and that's going to be there, especially in the summer months when things heat up. You know, the home run ball is going to be there for this team, but I like seeing them battle. I like seeing them compete each and every inning, even if they don't score, putting the pressure on the other team, driving the pitcher's pitch count up, and making them get into that bullpen, and hopefully in those innings, scratching a run across here or 2. And then when that big 2-run, 3-run home run comes, now you're putting up a huge number. So that's what I'm looking for every time when I watch this offense, and I'm seeing it a lot more here lately. Now, there's still certainly some rough moments. You look at the game on Saturday and especially the game on Sunday, they had opportunities. And look, I'm not going to complain. You give yourself opportunities, and eventually you're going to get that big hit, and that's what this offense can do. But top of the 9th on Saturday, you had bases loaded, 1 out. Matt Olson grounds into a double play. Got to get the ball in the air there. One thing with Matt Olson, and I've been very happy with his approach, cutting down on the strikeouts. I've been happy with really everything that Matt Olson has done this year offensively. But with what I'm assuming is an approach change for him this year, it's a lot more ground balls than we're used to seeing. Career high ground ball rate right now for Matt Olson. And don't love seeing that as somebody that needs to put the ball in the air. He thrives on putting the ball in the air. Way too many ground balls for Matt Olson so far this season. But that was a huge spot in the game on Saturday because it felt like an opportunity to kind of put the game away. You knew Raisel was coming in. He's had his troubles and weren't able to come through in a big spot there. It cost them. You had to go into extra innings. Thankfully, they still won the game. And Matt Olson was as relieved as anybody on that play to end the game on Saturday. He knew it was an out. He just went ahead and said, go ahead and replay it. He knew it was done, but he was also probably completely relieved because he knows everybody would have been looking at him had they lost that game after not coming through in the 9th inning. And then on Sunday, and this is really going to couple into our conversation about Ozzie Albies, but top of the 7th on Sunday, and this one isn't completely on Ozzie. He just happened to end the inning, but you had runners on 1st and 3rd. This is where they knocked Brandon Pfaadt out of the game. They go to Shelby Miller. You got 1st and 3rd, nobody out, the tying run at 3rd base, and you got Riley, Ozuna, and Olson coming up. Riley strikes out. Ozuna strikes out, and then they pitch around Matt Olson to face Ozzie Albies, who pops out. And then in the top of the 9th, you got 2 on, nobody out. Austin Riley hits into a double play. Rough weekend for Austin Riley. I'll talk about that in a second. And then Ozuna does get a hit to drive in a run. So you got the tying run at the plate again. And once again, they pitch around Matt Olson to face Ozzie Albies. And look, you did bat Sean Murphy behind Matt Olson in the first 2 games of this series. Me and Lindsay talked about it the other day. You can't have Ozzie in that 5th spot right now. You got to have either of the catchers, whether it's Murphy or Baldwin. You got to have somebody who's going to put together a better at bat in a clutch situation right now because Ozzie's just not there at the moment. And I'm going to do a deeper dive on Ozzie Albies in a podcast this week, probably our Wednesday episode. But it's a real struggle for Ozzie right now. He did have 3 hits on the weekend, but he just continues to struggle in those big spots. And on Sunday, it was pretty clear that the Diamondbacks would much rather face Ozzie Albies in a big spot than they would Matt Olson. And I don't blame them. I would too. But either of those catchers need to be hitting behind Matt Olson, and it can't be Ozzie Albies right now. Bat him 6th, bat him 7th. I know you can't put everybody down at the bottom of the order. Maybe you change him and Eli White if Eli keeps going at the way he is. And let's transition to Eli White because I don't know if this is real, but you absolutely ride it out while you can. It's a 295 XBA. It's a 531 X slug. You know, those things are probably going to come down, but it shows that what he's done so far is at least legitimate. Everything on his Savant page right now is either league average or better. It's a small sample size that we're dealing with. We're talking about fewer than 50 at bats so far. He had 4 hits over the weekend, scored 5 runs, drove in 4, and walked. Now, I would like to see him steal a little bit more. He has elite speed. His speed did help lead to an error that scored a run as well. So again, that what I've been talking about with Eli White and Nick Allen, just being able to do different things with their speed on the bases that change up the dynamic of this offense. It's incredibly fun watching what Eli White is doing. Again, I don't know if this is legitimate, if it can last, but you certainly are going to ride this out, and he needs to be playing every single day. Wanted to highlight Michael Harris. Leave him down in the lineup. I say it all the time. Leave him down there, 5, 6, 7 spot in the order. Really 6 or 7 for me right now, because like I said, I don't trust him hitting behind that top group either. So 6th or 7th in the lineup. You can probably flip-flop him and Ozzie depending on who's swinging a better bat and depending on probably righty-lefty on the mound. It's now a 279 XBA. It's only a 243 actual for Michael Harris, but you're seeing that start to come back up. Just 2 strikeouts in his last 9 games. Only 1 walk, but you're really not counting on Michael Harris getting a bunch of walks. At least he's putting the ball in play and making some better contact. Had 2 hits in each of the first 2 games of the series, including a huge one on Saturday, a ball that he absolutely roped that somehow got over the head of Alek Thomas, who is a really good defender in center and very fast. And he hit it so hard that it got over the head of Alek Thomas on a line. That was a great hit. So Michael Harris starting to come around. And then I did want to mention Austin Riley. It was a rough weekend for him. I know he had 3 hits, but there were some really bad at-bats, especially in the last 2 games. Saturday was just a dreadful one for him. He looked completely lost at the plate. I know he had the double in the first inning on Sunday, but every at-bat after that, he looked completely lost. Talked about how it was a complete momentum killer in that 7th inning. You had 1st and 3rd, nobody out with Riley coming up, and he strikes out. That was a huge momentum killer in that game. That was the turning point in that game. You had the top of the 7th. The Braves were threatening. You had the middle of your order coming up with nobody out, and you can't score. You get 2 strikeouts from Riley and Ozuna, and then the Diamondbacks increase their lead in the bottom half of that inning. Riley, the big thing with him has always been the consistency. You know the numbers are going to be there at the end, but there can be times through a season where he just looks completely lost. We've already seen it once early on in this season, and then he turned things around and went off. Now we might be seeing another stretch where he's lost again, but you hope those stretches don't turn into 6, 7, 8 game stretches and that he can figure it out quickly. But it was a rough weekend for him. But overall, the offense is looking much better, looking great, more consistent, doing different things. The bottom of the order has been fantastic with Eli White, Michael Harris, Nick Allen down there being able to get on base, do some different things. Verdugo had a 4-hit game on Sunday, so he's been great at the top of the order. Ozuna, Olson, doing their thing as well, Murphy and Baldwin. But I really like where the spot where this offense is right now. Pitching side of things, a little bit rougher shape overall. It was a good offense that they were facing, but we'll talk more about the pitching staff here next. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. From 3-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. I personally have not caught any of the NBA playoff action, but I see all the highlights. I know LeBron James and the Lakers are down 3-1 because that's all I see on my timeline. But if you want to get in on that action, you can do so over at FanDuel. Or if you want to check out the latest World Series odds for the Major League Baseball, you can see that there as well. Also, make sure you visit FanDuel.com/playsafe for tools and resources to help you stay in control of the way you play. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. Go check out a Locked On MLB for your second listen, solely getting you caught up on everything happening around Major League Baseball. You get the Game Night podcast over there as well. They're going to highlight all the biggest moments from each and every day around Major League Baseball. We talked about the offense, feeling really good about where they're at the moment. And that's my biggest thing for the regular season. I'm not going to harp on that too much again, but if the offense is doing what they're supposed to do, I feel much better about the regular season and the Braves turning things around and getting on track. Certainly would help, though, if the pitching did the same and we got the pitching back to where it needs to be. Chris Sale on Friday night feels like he's just slowly inching back to the Chris Sale that we know he can be. It was a much better game for him on Friday, but still wasn't able to go deep into that ball game. But what I loved about that outing is that he had a runner on third with less than one out, and he was able to clutch up and get some big strikeouts. That was huge for Chris Sale, knowing that he can still, when he needs to, with runners on in big spots, bear down and get that big strikeout. So I love seeing that for him. It was a ton of foul balls. It was over 20 foul balls against him in the game on Friday. That's driving up his pitch count. I know it's frustrating him as well, but it's something you've seen a lot this year from teams against him. They're fouling off a lot of pitches, whether that is intentional by the other team, knowing that it's just a tough pitcher and they're trying to frustrate him and just throwing the bat at the ball and doing a good job of fouling them off, or whether it's Chris Sale just not being able to put hitters away. But that has been something that's really hurt him early on in the season, that's kept him from going deep in the ball games, which he wants to do. He prides himself on being efficient and pitching deep, and he's just not able to do that. But you look at the numbers right now, it's a 3.53 expected ERA. It's a 2.38 expected batting average. It's a 35.6% chase rate. Everything is still there for Chris Sale to be a dominant pitcher. It's just the execution and efficiency right now that is holding him back. And if he can figure that out, he's going to get back on track, and we're going to see the good Chris Sale. It's just, we're over a month into the season now, and we've still yet to see him make those changes to get back to being that guy. Grant Holmes, really, in my opinion, he fell apart in the fourth inning of that game on Saturday, lost command for a bit, walked a couple of batters, and then Eugenio Suarez just had the game of his life. In that one, ended up hitting 4 home runs, 3 of them off Grant Holmes. Nearly in that fourth inning, he nearly missed a huge strike him out, throw him out, a 3-2 pitch to Pavin Smith that was just below the zone. Called ball 4. Murphy threw a strike down to second base. Would have been a strike him out, throw him out. Not the case, though. And then that inning just kind of unraveled on him. At least he hung in there, though, and worked into the 6th inning. Probably shouldn't have faced Suarez for a third time there. But I think we see what Grant Holmes is. He's a solid 4th or 5th starter. I don't see this as a Ronaldo Lopez situation, which, look, Ronaldo may end up just being a solid 4th or 5th starter, but obviously he was more than that last year. And I think maybe some people expected that same type of rise for Grant Holmes. I don't think that to be the case. I do think he's a solid 4th or 5th starter that, if he's able to throw enough strikes, he can work deep into a ball game for you and keep your team in the game, which is what he's done for the most part this year. Even when he hasn't thrown a lot of strikes, he's been able to keep your team in the ball game. But it is 17 walks in 27 innings this year as a starter. He's got to get that under control. And if he does, I think we're going to see a lot better results from Grant Holmes. But he's also, trying to work himself as a starter, going from the bullpen where he's been for a while now. And I think it's been a decent transition. And again, I think he is what he is. He's not going to be an overly dominant starter, but he's going to be able to work that off-speed pitch or that breaking pitch and give you, 5-6 solid innings each and every time out and keep your team in a ball game. So I like what we've seen from Grant Holmes for the most part. It was really just that 4th inning in Eugenio Suarez on Saturday that plagued him. As for Spencer Schwellenbach, I'm not concerned, nor should you be, but it's 3 straight starts now where he's been hit pretty hard. He's given up a lot of hard contact, and you almost wonder if he's gone back to throwing too many strikes. If you remember last year when Spencer Schwellenbach came up, he got hit hard, and he admitted that a lot of it was he was throwing too many strikes and leaving too many pitches in the zone and not throwing enough quality strikes. And you just wonder if that's kind of where he is right now, that hitters know he's going to be in the zone. Even in the game on Sunday, gave up a lot of hits early on, but his pitch count was still relatively low because hitters are so aggressive. They know he's going to be in the zone, and maybe that's working against him a little bit. You look at his expected numbers. It's a 3.68 expected ERA, not anything terrible, but I expect better than that from Spencer Schwellenbach. A 2.74 expected batting average, though. That is extremely high for a guy like Spencer Schwellenbach with the pitch mix that he has and the command that he has. That needs to come down a good bit. And look, after giving up just 3 hits in his first 2 starts, he's given up 7, 6, 8, and 7 hits in his last 4 games. And that will happen when you throw a lot of strikes and you're trying to be efficient and let the other team put the ball in play. The problem is they're putting the ball in play and they're doing it with high exit velocities. So he's got to figure that out and be a little bit smarter about how he pitches in the zone and then getting hitters to chase a little bit more outside of the zone. His own error cost him on Sunday. And then it was that there's really two spots on Sunday. And again, even with all this hard contact, he's still been keeping his team in the game. He's still been pitching deep into ball games outside of the start in Toronto. And on Sunday, his own error led to a run. And then what I thought was maybe one of the most frustrating at bats for him was the Perdomo at bat, where he gave up the solo home run later in the game. Because at that point, you felt like you were pitching pretty well. You're getting deep into the game, only allowed 3 runs, 2 of them earned. You got ahead of Perdomo 0-2, and then you tried to put him away with a couple of splitters, and you could see the frustration on him, especially the second one that just faded way outside on him. And then you come back into the zone with a 4-seamer, and it wasn't even a terribly located 4-seamer, but Perdomo had to know he was probably getting a fastball of some sort in that position after you saw the frustration on his face that he couldn't throw that splitter, and Perdomo was ready for it and just hooked it inside the foul pole down the right field line. That to me was just, it was turning out to be a pretty good start to a really good start for Spencer Swellenbach. And then that one was just kind of the backbreaker for him in that one that made the start look a lot worse probably than it even was. But still, Swellenbach just not quite himself over the last 3 or 4 starts that he's had. Again, still good outing, still going deep into the game, still, not giving up a ton of runs, like I said, outside of the Toronto start. And on Sunday, it was weird looking at his pitch mix. He has a bunch of pitches that he'll throw and he'll mix them all in, about the same. But we've generally seen him, if one pitch is particularly working against a team, he'll stick with it. It was the 4-seamer that he had really working earlier in the season. He just kind of stuck with that. And this one, though, it was all pretty much even, which tells me either it's by design to try to keep the other team off balance, which wasn't working, or he just didn't feel great about any of the pitches that he was throwing, that he didn't feel like the Diamondbacks were really struggling with any one particular pitch, or he just didn't have a great feel for all of them. But I thought that was noteworthy from the game on Sunday. Now, as for the bullpen, outside of Iglesias and Aaron Bummer, everyone had a good weekend. And even Bummer in that inning, in the 7th inning on Sunday, the check swing doesn't go his way, big missed call, which, by the way, the umpiring crew in that series they need to have their job reviewed. That was a rough weekend for that umpiring crew. But that was a huge call in that game and kind of changed the complete complexion or entire complexion. But isn't that the thing with Aaron Bummer, though? It's always something that doesn't go his way and it leads to a bad inning. But again, I'm not completely worried about Aaron Bummer, and I don't think he's necessarily somebody we're going to normally see in high leverage situations. I don't think he's in that mix. I think it's Dylan Lee. I think it's Daysbel Hernandez, Pierce Johnson, even Enyel De Los Santos. I think is probably getting higher leverage spots than Aaron Bummer right now. And obviously Iglesias, I think he's still going to get those opportunities unless they do what I think they should do with Raisel Iglesias and give him a phantom IL stint. He needs a break. He's got to figure this out. It really just is location for him. I've said it since his very first outing of the season. Everything is up. And that's why you're seeing all these home runs. When Iglesias is good, everything is down at the bottom of the zone, except for the 4-seamer that he'll throw up at the top to change their eye level, kind of similar to what I talk about with Bryce Elder, but with better stuff for Iglesias. And everything's just up right now. The changeup's up. He's leaving the slider up. Everything is up in the zone, and it's getting absolutely hammered. So I don't know. It's got to be something mechanical, similar to Chris Sale. I don't think it's he's just old. He doesn't know how to pitch anymore. I think it's mechanical, that something is throwing off the location of his pitches, and maybe he just needs a little bit of a breather to try to figure that out and let Daysbel be the closer for now until he can. But I don't trust Iglesias right now. I'm worried about him, and I'm somebody that loves Raisel Iglesias. But until he can figure out what is going on that is causing him to leave all these pitches up in the zone, I can't trust him in a big spot right now. Scott Blewett, the Braves might have something here with this guy. Look, his numbers overall at the big league level are really good. He struck out 3 of the 4 hitters that he faced on Saturday. Snicker had the bullpen up, ready to take him out, but he came back out for that next inning and struck out 2 of the batters that he faced. So a really good inning, really good stuff there from Scott Blewett. I mentioned Daysbel. He probably just needs to be the closer right now and give Iggy a breather, whether just, give him some time off or give him an IL stint to let him try to figure it out. But Daysbel's been fantastic. Dylan Lee with a clutch save on Saturday after a scoreless inning on Friday. He's been fantastic. Like I said, Daysbel, Dylan Lee, those are probably the guys that I trust the most right now coming out of that bullpen. And they were really good over the weekend. And then finally, on the defensive side of things, you had some great plays by Allen, Riley, and Olson in this series. I don't want to jinx it, but Matt Olson may have already won the Gold Glove this year. He has been unreal over there. And it's not just the plays that he makes, it's the scoops that he's making over there, saving his defenders who are making some bad throws. It's almost like they just don't care. Like they want to test Matt Olson to see exactly how good he can pick some of these balls. And he does it just about every time. Riley's played in the game on Saturday. I didn't think he had any chance to get Grichuk throwing it from that far away. Again, another great stretch by Matt Olson, who knew right away that he was out. But Riley, again, I think he's been unreal. I think he's probably in that Gold Glove mix. And then I'm not a big believer in defensive metrics unless they match up with what my eyes are telling me. And my eyes are telling me that Nick Allen has incredible range, and so are the metrics. He has a +4 outs above average on Savant, which shows a player's range. And the quick release, I'm not saying he's Dansby Swanson, but with the weaker arm, he has a quick release to make up for that. And so the range, the quick release, you're seeing a really good defensive shortstop being played in Nick Allen. I don't care if he doesn't hit at the bottom of the lineup. At least when he gets on base, he's going to give you some speed, and he's playing great defensively. You can live with that with the rest of the lineup doing what they're supposed to do. But that is the weekend recap for the Atlanta Braves. A series win over the Diamondbacks. Got some news as well. Old friend Ian Anderson back. We'll talk about that and preview the Rockies series here next. There's nothing better than catching an MLB game live. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, and the smell of ballpark food. And if you're looking to go last minute, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. With last minute deals, all-in prices, and a lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, ticket prices drop as Game Time gets closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On, and as the MLB season is coming up, I can count on them to help grab tickets to some Braves games this summer. If you're out in Colorado, I know they do a great job. Braves fans out there really do a great job of going to those games. You can check out Game Time. Use the Game Time Picks feature. It makes finding the best deals effortless because it filters out the fluff and highlights the top discounts in the stadium. I've never been to the stadium there in Denver, but I hear it's a beautiful one. But just in case you want to make sure you get a great view, you can get the view from your seat right there in the Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. A little bit of news from over the weekend. The Braves recalled Davis Daniel and DFA'd Jesse Chavez. We'll see if he hangs around once again. I would not be surprised if he does. And then the Braves claimed Ian Anderson off waivers. And this one is a head scratcher. I said the other day, because somebody asked me if I thought the Braves should pick him up. And I said, absolutely not. Let him go figure it out in another organization. And what do you know? The Braves do claim him. I don't get it. I don't understand. You trade this guy for Jose Suarez. And then, well, first of all, you talk him up like he's going to win a job in spring training in your rotation when you know he's not going to, and you don't go out and get another pitch. Okay, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole. But here we are again, and Ian Anderson is back, likely in some sort of bullpen role. I don't know how long he'll be around this time, but he should be with the Braves on Monday. We'll see what that ultimately means for the Atlanta Braves and Anderson. Love the guy. I want to see him get it going. I don't understand why you're putting him back on the big league roster. Quickly previewing this Rockies series. They've lost 6 in a row. I don't love that because the way baseball works, law of averages, they're going to win eventually. They only have 4 of them on the year, though. This is clearly the worst team in baseball, and weird things happen in Colorado. But this is a series where you must win 2 out of 3. Honestly, it probably needs to be a sweep, but again, weird things happen in Colorado. But the Braves got to win this series. I mean, you can't. But you had the A's series 2 years ago where they were the worst team in baseball and the Braves lost the series to them. You had the White Sox last year who were the worst team in baseball and the Braves lost the series to them. And now you play in the Rockies who are the worst team in baseball. Are they going to lose a series to them and kill all this momentum that they've had going in the second half of the month of April? Let's hope not. You look at this Rockies offense, they're 29th in runs, 28th in average, 27th in on-base percentage. They've struck out the most of any team. They have the 6th fewest walks and the 5th fewest steals. So they do nothing good offensively. On the pitching side, they're 29th in ERA, 30th in WHIP, 29th in K per 9, just 21st in walk per 9. So that's what they do the best. They're not going to walk quite as many people, but still not great there either. You look at their bullpen. Jake Bird's been their best arm, 6 2/3 innings, a 1.08 ERA, a 1.20 WHIP, 10 walks, to 23 strikeouts. But Seth Halverson and Tyler Kinley seem to be the two arms that they trust the most in clutch situations. Neither one of those guys have been good. They both have 2 saves on the season. So those will be some of the arms coming out of the bullpen. Pitching matchups for the weekend. On Monday, you're going to have Bryce Elder versus Ryan Feltner. Feltner's been their best arm, so this might be the toughest game. Honestly, these first two are going to be tough because you got Elder, and then we don't know what's really going to happen on Tuesday quite yet. And Ryan Feltner's been their best arm. He's looked really good outside of one blow-up start this year, which came against the Dodgers. In his last start, he went 7 innings, 3 hits, 1 walk, 1 earned, with 4 strikeouts against the Royals. It's a 6-pitch mix. He has over a 40% whiff rate this year on his changeup and sweeper, and a 33% whiff rate on his slider. So going to be a tough one, but what the offense will be hopefully trying to do all weekend is get the starter out of the game and get to that bullpen. That has been really rough for this Rockies team, and Ryan Feltner could be a tough one for the Atlanta Braves, maybe the toughest one they face on in the series. On Tuesday, like I said, don't know who the Braves are starting yet. We all assume it's going to be A.J. Smith-Shawver, but right now, at least, they have Davis Daniel on the roster. We'll see if they option him to make room for Ian Anderson. And then I would imagine maybe A.J. Smith-Shawver comes up to take the place of Ian Anderson on Tuesday. Again, I don't really understand all the maneuvering on the pitching side for the Braves, but we'll see how they handle that and who gets the start on Tuesday against German Marquez, who has a 9.30 ERA and a 2.02 whip. And then in the finale, it'll be Chris Sale versus Chase Dollander. Dollander, the Rockies' top rookie, off to a rough start, especially his last 2 games. He's allowed 8 home runs in his first 4 big league starts, but he has big-time stuff. And the Rockies are hoping that he turns it around and becomes an ace of that staff at some point. But it's been a rough beginning to his major league career. So those are your pitching matchups for the series against the Rockies, which, again, has to, at the very least, be a series win, if not a sweep, and the Braves could finish off this month on a really high note after the way things started. I don't think anybody could have seen it finishing any better than that, assuming that they're able to get at least 2 wins in this series. They're 12-15. You're able to survive this month going 14-16 after starting 0-7. That would be a huge win for this Braves team. You can finish it at 500 at 15-15. That would be an amazing turnaround for this Braves team. So hopefully they can get it done out there in Colorado. All right, that will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Make sure that you subscribe on YouTube if you're new. Hit the thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below. Follow us on the socials. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast. And we will talk to you next time.